Hey lovely freaks, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host Amanda.
And I'm Hannah.
And if you're new here, hi, welcome. If you like things strange and unusual and true crime, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button. You can also head down to the description box and you'll see a link that will take you to our link tree. And you can find our social media like Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz.
And all that jazz.
Yeah. So if you hear a little dog bark or yelp, that's the puppy. My kids.
If you hear me go, ow, he's playing with my arm right now.
I currently don't. My kids. Oh, or that.
That was him.
My kids are not at home, so I don't have anybody to watch him. And if I put him on the ground, he's gonna start whining. So anywho, he's just gonna be with us
in the middle
today.
of this.
Yeah,
He's gonna hear about true crime.
that's right.
He's gonna hear about murder. Yeah.
It's only 7 weeks old. So anyways, we last left off with Mr. Dean Corll. And Corll. So we're on part 2 of that, and the rest of this is gonna be pretty quick. It's not gonna be super lengthy. Hopefully we can make it at least 30 minutes or 40 minutes, but it's pretty crazy what happens, the rest of what happens. So we're just going to jump right in. So when we last left off, Dean was moving into Westcott Tower Apartments. And I've said this before, he moves around a lot. Like, every time somebody would complain or something like that, he would have to move. So he moves around a lot. So that's not, unusual. And he's going to move around a few more times when we talk about him here in just a minute. So, I do need to say, by the way, Dean has had a girlfriend for about 5 years now. Her name is Betty Hawkins. She said that nothing was off about him except for the fact that they had been dating for 5 years and he never pursued her for sex. She would ask and he would always be like a gentleman, is what she said about it.
Because he's gay, sweetie.
Yeah, but she didn't know that, or didn't think to put 2 and 2 together. She thought he was just being a gentleman, like I said. She also was a single mom, so she wasn't really... She was looking for somebody that was awesome, you know?
Yeah.
Her kids even called him dad. I think at one point, every time they would go out on a date, he wanted the kids to come along so that way he could be like, oh, we can't make out, the kids are here, or something like that, or oh, we can't go to the bedroom, the kids are here, or something. So near the end of their relationship, though, she started seeing other men because obviously Dean wasn't, taking care of the sexual part. And he found out about it and he didn't care. He told her, obviously he was using her as probably telling his mom, because his mom, Mary, still wanted him to, be married or have a girlfriend. So he's probably like, yeah, I got a girlfriend, and probably just using her as a scapegoat. But anyways, he told her, I don't care if you want to go try to find another guy. If you think that'll work for you, you can do that. And she was like, oh, that's so sweet. But really, he just,
that should give you red flags.
Yeah. After 5 years of being together. And he's just like, you cheated. It's fine. You do you. You do you.
I support you.
Yeah. So after moving to this new apartment, it said that he killed 2 victims. I'm not quite sure what their names are, but so yeah, he killed 2 more victims. I'm not sure their names or anything like that, but the first another victim that he killed was 17-year-old or 12-year-old. I think that's 17. I can't even read my own handwriting. I'm pretty sure it's 17-year-old Stephen Sickman. This was on July 19th, 1972, when he was last seen. That's the date he was last seen. And then 1 month later, he kills another boy named 19-year-old Roy Bunton. These boys were identified later in 2000. Well, they weren't identified until 2011. I don't really know why. I couldn't figure that out. It just said that in the article I was reading, that they weren't identified until 2011. I guess because David and Wayne, when they finally confessed all this, they didn't tell them, like, they didn't tell them everybody. So I guess over the years and years of them digging and searching, they finally found them. On October 2nd, 1972, David and Wayne encountered two teens walking home. Wally Simon, I'm not even going to try to say the last name. Simon?
Symbol.
I'm not sure how to say it. And it was Wally and Richard Hembry. They got into his Corvette with the promises of going to an awesome party and having a good time and drinking, etc. And that night, Wally's mom actually got a phone call. I'm not quite sure how old those two were. I don't know if I couldn't figure that out. Sometimes they would have how old they were and sometimes they wouldn't. But we can imagine they were anywhere from 13 to 20 because that's about the range that, he liked his men or boys. So yeah, Wally's mom got a phone call in the middle of the night. She answers it and it's like, hello. And the person on the other line, all they say is mama. And then it hangs up or it clicks off like it's disconnected.
And he must have somehow gotten the phone.
I don't know. Wayne claims he accidentally shot Richard, the other boy, in the mouth, and it went through his neck, and he was still alive.
Oh.
So for a whole day, while they were dealing with Wally and torturing him and all that, he was just sitting there basically bleeding to death.
Sorry.
And they finally ended his life by strangling him later on in the day. The next month, they abducted a boy. His name was Willard Branch, who was 18. He was actually one of the victims that they found the testicles removed. And because some of these bodies, I think I said that last time, some of these bodies they were finding, they had like bags of, like in other parts of the boathouse, because remember I told you that's where some of the victims were being buried, was the boathouse.
Yeah.
They would find like bags of like severed penises and balls and stuff like that.
Wow.
So he would torture them and then do that.
So he would put like different body parts in different bags. That's weird. Why would he do that? I would think
it wasn't different body parts. It was just
penises?
Yeah, just genitalia.
So I'm guessing it's just in a sexual fantasy kind of thing.
Probably, yeah. So, November 15th, 19-year-old Richard Kepner was abducted. January 20th, 1973, Dean moves again. Remember I said that he moved around a lot, and after moving, he then found another victim, 17-year-old Joseph Lenles. If you don't know how these people were murdered and you're like, what? Go watch the first one. Go listen to the first podcast because you're going to be completely lost. I'm not going to, describe a lot of these murders. I'm just going to say the victims' names and the day that they were abducted and how old they were, because that needs to be said. But I'm just not going to go through all the murders because they're pretty much the same in every single one, except for a few times when it's different. So if you're kind of like, well, how did they die, because some people are fascinated by that, you can go listen to the first one, and that'll explain all that to you. Also, if you haven't listened to the first one, then you shouldn't be here in the first place because you're totally lost.
Yeah.
So, Dean finally moves one last time, and this time after he moves, this will be like the last place that he lives. This was his father's old house at 2020 Lamar Drive in Pasadena, Texas. When I was reading on Wikipedia and all these different articles, I kept reading 2020, and I had not got there yet. I was getting there, but I thought it was gonna say something like something happened to his case in 2020, and then I realized that was a street that he lived on, and I was like, whoa, that's creepy. 2020 Lamar Street. Because 2020's
the worst year.
Well, 2021's looking even better. So
yeah, it's the same.
Yeah,
nothing's different.
So from February of 19 1973 to June of 1973, he actually stopped killing. When he moved to Pasadena, Texas. The reason why was they speculate that the reason why was because Wayne at this time had moved away. He actually was going to try to join the Navy. David was getting married. He was having a baby during all this time, and he was kind of out of it, and then the girlfriend that David had, he married her. And they were pregnant. And so also at this time, Dean had a medical condition, and I can't remember what the technical term is for it, but anyways, he had a medical condition where one of his balls had one of his testicles had a water
it was swelling,
balloon, swelling. Yeah, it was swelling. And it's called, oh gosh, what is it called? I should have wrote that down, but I'm not a doctor. So anyways, I didn't write it down, but it's something to do with your testicles where one of them swells. Well, it was swelling so bad that, he was having problems and it would hurt and all that stuff. So they say that that's probably why, he kind of stopped for those months, but I wish his balls would have burst. That would have been great. David and Wayne decided that they need to stop killing with Dean because they don't want to do it anymore. However, they will never be able to get away from him because they know that, they kind of go back and forth. They're like, we know that we need to stop doing this, but at the same time, Wayne said that he knows he can't leave because he's scared that he'll kill his brothers, or his brother. He's got one brother, so he was scared that he will go after him because his brother was younger. I mean, you got to keep in mind these boys are 16 and 17. I'm pretty sure they're 17 at this time, and I know Wayne is, and I think David's either 17 or 18. So they've got younger siblings. Wayne does, so he said he was scared that Dean would go after him.
Them. Yeah.
So finally in June, Dean was ready to kill again. Yay. David said it was like a bloodlust. Like all of a sudden, they could tell when he would want to start killing again because he would start chain smoking, which he never smoked, and he would start, fidgeting with his hand, almost like a psycho person, just pacing the room. Yeah, addicted and just needing their fix. So on June 4th in 1970, we're in 1973, 15-year-old William Ray Lawrence was abducted. He was left alive for about 3 days. He, during those 3 days, he was subject to abuse, rape, torture, and he finally was strangled to death. 2 weeks later, they abducted 20-year-old Raymond Blackburn, and between July 6th and July 25th, there were 5 victims, and I'm just going to say their names. There was 15-year-old Homer Garcia, 17-year-old John Seltzer, 15-year-old Michael Bulch, which Michael was, from last episodes, Michael was one of the little brothers of one of the ones that they had already abducted. Wow. Yeah, so his parents are, not having they're all, it's pretty bad for them.
Pretty bad, yeah.
Charles Cobble and Marty Jones, I'm not sure how old they were. I couldn't find their ages, but yeah, so that's pretty much all the victims until the last one, which was on August 3rd, 1973. This was said to be his last victim. It was 13-year-old James Jamala. He was abducted while riding his bike down in front of the 2020 Lamar Street where he was, where Dean was living. So he was riding his bike and he was actually collecting glass bottles because back in the 70s, and Mom's told us this before, you remember how Mom told us you could collect glass bottles and take them to the store and trade them in for candy or money or quarters. So that's what he was doing, and Dean abducted him. I think he might have even asked him, he might have lured him in some way, because I kind of read some things that said he did, but then I when I was reading it, just said that he was just collecting bottles. But one thing said that he, told him, we've got more bottles over here at the house or whatever, and you could come get those. And so, whatever the case is. But I wanted to say, keep in mind, there are 3 different burial sites that we know of. Because if you were here last week, you remember we were talking about him digging holes at the candy store, which they've never decided to dig that up or look into that. But the 3 abduction sites the 3 burial sites were the boat shed, which we've mentioned before. Then there was the High Island Beach. Yeah, that's right. He would go to the beach. They would go to the beach. Like, after they'd murder someone, they would go to the beach and they would bury their bodies in the middle of the night. Granted, people aren't at the beach, just all hours of the night, but still, I'm just like, how did nobody see
especially
3
if it's in
men
the winter they
with
might
a shovel?
not see 'em.
And
Yeah.
and I just don't understand. I don't get it.
People just were in people's business as much as they are now.
And then Lake Sam Rayburn, which was a lake that he eventually started when he moved to this place in Pasadena. He started taking the bodies there. But most of the bodies were at the boat shed that we mentioned last week. Dean also at this time was in his 30s. And like I said, David, I believe, was 17 or 18. I think he was 18. And then Wayne was 17. All the murders happened in a 3-year span. And most of them, like I said last time, were from Houston Heights. So, still, even though he's living in Pasadena, he's still going to Houston, and which they're not that far apart from each other, but some of the abductions were from Houston Heights. I mean, that little boy, Michael Bulch, I think that's how you say it. He was the younger brother of the other boy, so, I mean, he had to go back there. They had to go back there. And still, all these boys that they're abducting are usually kind of friends of David and Wayne's.
Yeah.
And David at this time hasn't really he's been abducting boys, but it hasn't been as much as Wayne has, because he's kind of, like I said, he's trying to
get out of it.
But I just thought it's crazy because the older that they got, the older his victims got. Because, last week when we were talking, most of them were like 13, 14, 15, which is how old David and Wayne were. Mm-hmm. But now, during this time, when he's moved, there's like 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 17-year-olds, There are some younger ones, but obviously that means that David and Wayne are becoming friends with these people and promising them to, like, hang out and have a good time, and then, they take them to Dean's house, So now we come to August 8th, 1973. A phone call comes into the police station that would change everything. So Wayne invites a 19-year-old boy named Timothy Corll to Dean's house. He told him there was going to be like an awesome party, and keep in mind Dean's known for throwing rager parties. So most of the kids in that area, the teenagers, 17, 18-year-olds, are like, oh yeah, I hear about his parties, they're awesome. So he's like, okay, I'll go to this house with you. So Timothy was probably intended to be the next victim. Wayne says he didn't intend for him to be the next victim, but when he got there, it was clear that Dean was like, eventually wanted to have him, So Tim, Wayne, and Dean are all at the house, and they're having this so-called party. What a party. They're huffing paint, they're drinking till midnight. And I'm just sitting there thinking, that's not a party. I'd be like, where's all the other people at?
Yeah.
We're just me and you here with this 32-year-old weirdo. But whatever. So they leave. Tim and Wayne. They're like, we're hungry, because they're high, so they're starving. So they decide to go to a sandwich shop. So they go to some sort of sandwich shop, or they go get sandwiches, because I don't think anything's open. It's like midnight. So they go to like a little store or whatever. And then on the way back, they decide to stop by Wayne's house. While they stop at Wayne's house, he gets out of the car and he hears like some commotion going on across the street. And this girl's like screaming and hollering, and then she starts running to him. And she is 15-year-old Rhonda Williams. So come to find out, it's like a neighbor of his that he kind of has a crush on. And some stuff that I was reading said that was actually one of their victims' fiancés, but she was 15, so I don't know, unless they were planning on getting married later. She was either one of the victims' fiancés or maybe just girlfriend. I'm not sure. But whatever the case, if it was, that's crazy. She was also Wayne's neighbor. And she was like, my dad's drunk and he's beating me and I just want to leave. I want to, I'm running away. So he was like, hey, I know a place that we can go. I'll take you to where we're staying. She was like, okay, that's fine. So they go back to Dean's house. And when they get there, Dean's pretty pissed when he sees all three of these people get out of the car because there's a girl with them. And you know how he feels about women. And so he told Wayne, he like brings him to the side and he was like, bringing a girl here like ruins everything. It ruins the night. Like, I can't believe you've done this. And I can't believe you've done this. Anyways. And so, Wayne was like, well, let's just party and have a good time. It's fine. I can bring Tim back another day, whatever. Because obviously, I don't understand why Dean didn't think that, but I guess he wanted him right then. He didn't want to wait another day. So Dean apparently calms down and he was like, okay, fine. We'll just like smoke weed and drink a lot of beer. So he does that. And Wayne said that it was kind of weird because he got really calm and like just said, fuck it. And then didn't really drink or smoke the rest of the night, but they were all drinking and smoking like heavily, so heavily that they all passed out. Not like because of the drugs, they just passed out because they were tired. So Wayne said later he thought at this point that, okay, nobody's going to get murdered tonight. This is just going to be a normal party night. Well, that was until Dean decided to hogtie all three of them and gag them while they were asleep. And then Wayne starts to wake up. So at this point, he's even doing this to one of his henchmen, which is, something he's never done before. So Wayne wakes up and he's like freaking out. What are you doing? What are you doing? Dean tells him that he's going to kill all three of them. He's like, you brought this girl here. You ruined everything. So I'm going to kill you and her and him. And he starts like kicking Rhonda in the chest, which she stays passed out through all this, and I don't know how. But he's like kicking her in the chest and, being aggressive to her. And then he takes Wayne and he drags him into the kitchen. And he puts a gun to his head. Mm-hmm. And Wayne then at this point starting to like negotiate. He's like, no, let me go, let me go. All the stuff I've done for you, I would never betray you, blah, blah, blah. He was like, I tell you what, if you let me go, I'll bring you so many boys, you won't even know what to do with them. He's like, also, I'll help you kill these two. We can kill them together. Yeah. So Dean unties him. He's like, okay, he believes him. And then he drags Rhonda and Tim to his torture board. Rhonda's on one side and Tim is on the other. Obviously, Dean is going to take Tim. He starts stripping his clothes off or whatever. And then he's like, okay, are you going to, you can have her. It's your turn. And so Wayne is like, okay. So he walks over there. And at this point, both of them have woken up, And Rhonda tells him, she's like, are you really going to do this? Like, please don't do this to me, blah, blah, blah. And I guess he liked her, and that's why he kind of did what he did next, but whatever. So he said he sat there for a second, and he wasn't sure what he was going to do, and she was, please don't do this. Meanwhile, Dean is, like, already assaulting Tim.
Yeah.
And he's, like, on top of him, like, naked. And so he walks over and grabs the gun that they've had.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a .22 pistol. And so he steps back and he tells Dean, he's like, you've gone far enough. You're not going to do this anymore. And Dean, instead of freaking out or whatever, he just walks over to him and he's like, go ahead and do it then. He's like, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and shoot me. And Wayne was like, what? And he was like, go ahead and shoot me. You're not going to do it. You won't do it. And he's laughing at him and all this. Well, Wayne shoots Dean in the forehead. And it doesn't penetrate his forehead.
Are you?
I have no fucking idea why.
Serious?
At that point, as a person, I would be like, he's a superhuman. Something's wrong. Like, I'd drop the gun and take off running. But he shoots him. It doesn't penetrate him. And then he starts, struggling with him or whatever. And then he shoots him again in the shoulder. He shoots Dean in the shoulder twice. And then he takes off running, and as he's taking off running down the hallway, he shoots him once in the lower back, and then once again in the other shoulder. And then Dean finally dies.
Well, that is freaking crazy. I've never heard of that. And especially him.
Yeah.
Like, if it was, like, a victim. Like, what? Mm-hmm. He's got a strong-ass forehead or something?
Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you. So, after everything comes out about this, and I'll tell you how it comes out, and all that, his mom, because she's like into psychics and all that.
Yeah.
Well, she went to all these different psychics that she knows, and she was like, my baby, there's no way he was this murderer. David and Wayne were the ones that did it, and they just pinned all this on Dean. Yeah. So all the psychics were telling her, they were like, oh yeah, we see that he's clothed in a white robe and he's probably in heaven and he didn't really do any of this. And she even went so far as to say that he was like Jesus because his birthday was December 24th. Her name was Mary. He was a single electrician, not a carpenter, but an electrician. Yeah. He liked kids, and he would just, his mom went freaking crazy, and he would just, he just loved kids, and anytime there was trouble, he would eventually just tell them to leave his house. He wouldn't kill them or nothing like that. And I was just like, what the fuck?
She's cray-cray.
Yeah, for real. So she probably thought, well, that's why he didn't die right away, or that's why it missed him, because he's Jesus.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so back to what happened. So he dies. They call 911. At first, Wayne just told them they could leave, and then Tim was like, no, we need to call the cops. So they call 911, and Wayne tells them, I've killed him. He's here. He was trying to hurt us. And they come. While they're waiting, they're outside on the porch, and Wayne goes, yeah, that wasn't the first time I've killed someone. And Tim was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I mean, if this was any other night, I probably would have got $200 for you. And
dude,
yeah,
first of all, you could have shut your mouth, just said that. The police, because they're stupid, wouldn't have done nothing.
Yeah, like he pretty much turns himself in. So he sorry,
after he got done
train of thought.
After
he got done telling that, the police come, they search the house and everything, and they find that there's like a torture board. They find all this different stuff. Mm-hmm. Obviously that belonged to Dean, because this is Dean's house. So meanwhile, Wayne's in the police car, and he knows he's going to go to jail for at least shooting David, but he doesn't say anything till they get him back to the station. And once they get him back to the station, he pretty much just tells them everything. He's like, yeah, so like, we used to kill kids, like it was no big deal. He was like, he told David about the involvement, about David being involved. Like he told the cops, he implemented him, and he was like, yeah, we would kill him, he would give us $200, and we would do this for like 3 years. And at first, which is so like these police officers, they thought that he was just high. They thought he was just high, and he was just talking out of his ass. Until he started naming victims or people that had disappeared. And then they were like, oh, maybe it's true, And I'm like, no, really?
Damn.
No shit.
They just don't want to do their job. They're like, oh, but I don't want to do all that work. No.
Yeah, these cops are the epitome of not wanting to do their job. So, Wayne takes them to different spots. I think he takes them to the boathouse first. And it's just a shit show with everything that goes on in this case. And I'm not going to talk about all of it, but there's so many different things that they do wrong at these burial sites when it comes to forensic evidence and all this other crap. In the end, it doesn't really matter because they go to jail. But like at the boathouse, instead of using delicate stuff to try to uncover these bodies, they use like metal shovels, and these police officers let the some of the prisoners, like the prisoners that are able to do stuff outside of prison because they're, I can't think of what it's called. No, they're not on parole. They're just
about to get out.
Yeah, they're about to get out, and they're like good prisoners.
Yeah.
So they were like letting them like dig the bodies up.
Oh my
and
god!
Yeah,
I'm serious.
Pretty crazy. Then when they went to the beach, and at this point it was all over the news. So David's dad actually saw it, and he was like, "You used to hang out with this dude. What the hell's going on?" So he actually went to the police station and turned himself in. At first, he tried to say he didn't have any involvement, but then he was like, eventually they were like, "There's so much evidence that you did, and this is what Wayne's told us." He was like, "Okay, I did." But he does claim to this day that he never had any involvement in the torture, which Wayne even says that he didn't. But as we know, I think I told y'all last week, Wayne did actually do some strangling and stuff like that. But so they're at the beach, and there's a picture, and I think I might have posted it on our last Instagram post, where David's kind of just, he's got like sunglasses on and he's looking up at like this investigator. Mm-hmm. Well, that picture is actually them at the beach sitting there while they're uncovering bodies. And there's like family at the beach, and they don't put up any like tents, or they don't go, "Hey,"
they just start digging up.
They just start digging up bodies.
Oh my god!
Where these people have,
like, I just want to meet these fucking police officers.
Yeah, because even when I've never actually seen a crime scene, but I mean, I'm sure that what they show us on like Mine Hunter and Criminal Minds and all that is probably what they actually do. They rope it off. They have tents up. They do it delicately. Don't want
other people to see the dead body.
Yeah, and most of these boys were not fully decomposed because it had only been 3 years. So some of them, some of the parents that had to come identify these boys, they have said that they still have nightmares to this day. There's a lot of, some of the investigators or the police officers actually committed suicide because of the way they looked. It was just really bad how they were tortured and everything. So Mary, Dean's mom, she was just all over the news, and with her crazy theories, like I said, about the psychics and everything. And I think even in trial, like, she was trying to still like defend his honor or whatever. But in the end, Wayne was charged with 6 counts of murder, and David was charged with 4 counts of murder. I think they did charge Wayne with Dean's murder, but obviously it was like a self-defense type of situation. Wayne was sentenced to 6 consecutive 99-year term sentences, which is basically life. And then David was sentenced to life as well. He actually died May 28th, 2020, from COVID. He got COVID in prison and passed away. Yep. But that is the story of the Candyman. And that's it, you guys. I didn't really talk about the trial because trial really wasn't anything like, super big. I mean, it was just, there were times like Wayne did try to appeal his sentencing, obviously, but it came out with the same verdict. They came out with the same verdict. His lawyers were trying to say, like, well, bringing all the torture board and all that stuff up, it wasn't Wayne's, it was Dean's, so why did you bring it up in court and blah, 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 blah. But, I mean, it doesn't matter. Everybody in that situation was knew what was going on and still participating in all this stuff. Except for David claims that he didn't. Well, he knew what was going on, but he claims that he never participated. And, you know, he would always say that he left. Like, as soon as Dean would, like, abduct, like, you know, start dragging him to the bedroom, he would, leave. You know, he would get his $200 and leave. But it still doesn't matter. He should have said something. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So
I'm surprised that the court actually did a good job. I was expecting them not to because, you know, the cops were not doing a good job.
Yeah. I figured that, like, some forensic evidence or something would get messed up, but
they would only be in jail for, like, 10 years. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
So one of the reasons why people think that you don't hear a lot about this case, because this is like this is 28 boys that got murdered, is because Dean died.
No.
Because a lot of people would rather do cases, or a lot of people that write books and stuff like that would rather do cases on someone that's alive that they can talk to about how they were feeling and why they did the things they did and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But I think this is more interesting because somebody that was helping him murder essentially killed him. And I thought that was really crazy. I was like, I've never, heard that. It just built over the years. And Wayne said, they both said, but, Wayne said ultimately it was just the fact that he had Tim there, who was a really good friend of his. Not that he hasn't killed friends in the past. I mean, he's brought him friends before, but it was just something different. And then Rhonda, he really liked her, so she was there, and, he was just pissed, and he didn't want him to kill him. Also, Rhonda said, there's an article or interview with her somewhere later on in life, but she says that, the things that they did were awful and disgusting, but she does thank Wayne for saving her life that night, because ultimately he did. I mean, but I mean, if he wouldn't have been attracted to you, he probably would have just been like, yeah, sure.
I feel like it was because she was a woman that he was like, oh, I can't kill this babe.
Yeah.
Like, if it was like a guy, you're like, whatever, it's just a guy, like, just my friend.
And I was wondering, when I was reading all this, I was thinking, okay, is Dean gonna, like, rape and torture her? Because he hasn't done that with a female, and that's gonna be really weird. But no, he told Wayne to, which Wayne was like, negative, Yeah. So, anywho, it's a short one, you guys, but we wrapped up the Candyman killer. Hopefully you guys learned something new today, and if you've made it this far, surely you listened to the first one, but we do have a lot of people that sometimes don't ever listen to the first episode. I don't understand. Yeah. So go listen to that.
Or they'll listen to the first one and not listen to the second one, which makes no sense.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying, we have some, but some of our stuff, I think it's what's his name? Oh my God, the Night Stalker. We have more people that'll listen to this part 2 than part 1. I don't know. So anyways, well, we hope that you guys have a fantastic weekend and stay safe out there with COVID. I know Mississippi is like going crazy with the Delta variant. It's pretty much everywhere. I thought my kids had it this past weekend. We had to get them tested, but they didn't, thank God. But yeah, it's everywhere in Mississippi, and hopefully, if you're not vaccinated, please go get vaccinated. We're vaccinated. I'm 100% for vaccines. If you don't like that, sorry. I'm not going to hate you because of it. I know there's so much animosity right now online where people are like, if you get the vaccine, you're an idiot. If you don't get the vaccine, it's whatever. It's your choice.
It's your choice, yeah.
You need to. I'm just saying it might be a good idea. So anyways. All right. Well, we hope that you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye.